Charles Barkley pointed at his shirt and said, Indiana, but the corner of Indiana.
Thinking in the corner of Indiana.
You know, these site consultants see locations all over the world, and to see a look of absolute amazement at all the development that's gone on here.
The idea of how much gold we feel like we're sitting on, have these outside forces come in and they're able to witness it for themselves, it really changes the way that they view the state of Indiana and Northeast Indiana in particular.
You're listening to the NEI Pioneer Podcast, where we showcase and share authentic stories of Northeast Indiana. In this episode of the podcast, Jonathan interviews two members of our NEI business development team, Eileen and Jackson. These two join us in an honest conversation where they share about how they overcome rejection and what really motivates them in this field of work. And if you want to learn more about what goes on behind the scenes of our business development team, then stay tuned for this episode. And if that doesn't interest you, then I'm sure Jackson's abundance of inspirational and philosophical quotes will. So let's get into it.
Hello, and welcome to the NEI Pioneer Podcast. I'm Jonathan Sackett, head of MarCom for NEI. And today, I am super excited and thrilled to have two of my coworkers on the show that head up new business here at NEI, Eileen Alberding and Jackson Long.
Thank you for having us,
you.
sir. Pleasure to be here.
Okay, you guys, I got to tell you, you're going to love these two, so I will try to let them do most of the talking. You'll be happy to know. Okay, you guys, would you mind talking just a little bit about yourselves, how long you've been here, what your roles are, that type of stuff?
Yeah, you just take it away.
Sure, I'll take over. My name is Jackson Long. I'm our business development manager over here, and I am a fresh 11 months into the job here. So far, at first, I felt almost lost in this world, but then I met Mr. Sackett here, and he helped me along the way and has guided me and helped build me into the young professional that I am today.
Plus, we had football in common.
We did have football in common.
And what was your position?
Linebacker.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Don't get in a bar fight with this guy. Okay.
Business development director. I have been here for 9 months. I was born and raised here in Northeast Indiana. My family's here. My kids are growing up here. So it's been really fun to join NEI and kind of learn a different perspective of how things happen here in our region and get to be impactful in growing our region.
So neither one of you came from a background of economic development?
No.
Okay.
No.
How much did that require ramp up? So it wasn't like you could just, I always think marketing and advertising is where I come from. So it doesn't really matter if it's a product or service.
Right.
You kind of got marketing down. So how does that work with economic development with a ramp up if you don't come from that? So
I think it's kind of similar. We're selling not a product, we're selling this region. So for me anyway, I'm still learning about economic development, but really it's, what is this product? What is special about Northeast Indiana? What are the advantages of a business locating here? So for me, and I would guess similar for Jackson, it's really about quickly trying to get up to speed with the main selling points so that we can have good conversations with businesses. And then it's going to be a, lifelong learning of all of the nuances of economic development, all the players, all the history, all the context. And, that's the part that I'll be working on forever. But I think that's an exciting thing about economic development is really if you're somebody that enjoys learning, then it's going to be a lifelong process. But yeah, lots to learn quickly so you can get out and have meaningful conversations with clients right away.
Well, I would assume it must have helped you guys because you're both from here.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm from Northwest Indiana, which is close enough.
That's
technically.
here-ish.
That's here-ish.
Yeah, okay, we'll
I would certainly describe that as here-ish. I would say that economic development is really an all-encompassing field. From the point to where you have to learn about megawatts and the amount of electricity that would go into a certain site.
That was my big hang up. I didn't, you think it's just business attraction. Hey,
Right.
You're expanding your business or whatever. Come here. Well, okay. Can you get me power? Can you get me water? And so, if you're outside of economic development, you don't know that stuff.
Right, of course. And then While it may be difficult to learn some of that, I think it's quite easier when you're someone like me who chose to come to Fort Wayne in Northeast Indiana 5 years ago. And I get to really kind of do some introspection and go, well, what was it that kept me around for these, past 5 to 6 years? And when I'm able to sort of bring up these quality of life elements like we did with Ace Pickleball today.
You just did it today?
Popped over there. There's quite a bunch of unique stuff that's going on in terms of quality of life, whether you're an outdoorsman and you like the trails, or if you're looking toward more of the nightlife scene in the city. But I would say for me, what's really kept me around is some of the people here. Just wholesome Midwest niceness is something that we really bring to the table.
The other thing that I wanted to ask you guys right off the bat was when you're talking about what is the number one question you get asked when it comes to, okay, so we're expanding there. We had a record-setting year last year. You guys must be getting a lot of the same questions. Is that how that works, or is every situation unique?
I think for me, there are certainly common buckets of questions. A company wants to know, is there labor here? What are the tax rates? What are the industry clusters that are similar to mine? What ecosystem am I walking into? Cost of living, that kind of stuff. But I really, what for me is exciting about this work is every single client, every single company is very unique and wanting to learn their specific needs, and then how we can paint the picture of how Northeast Indiana is going to be a great place for their business, how their needs, their challenges, we've got answers and solutions and resources for them here. So I like that very client-centric approach of getting to know their specific needs. But yeah, there's going to be common buckets of things people care about.
Well, because when we did a show with Stefan, he was talking about us being a concierge.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's more of hand-holding, more of consultative, that's what seems to work best for this. Because, the old adage is probably true. Nobody wants to be sold, but everybody wants to be socialized, right? So, trying to break through that and represent a region, it's different. I come from a background of a lot of CPG, so consumer packaged goods and things like that. I'm not doing Skittles commercials right now. I'm helping to sell a region, and I think it's tricky because you're trying to anticipate what these people need. And it was interesting because Isaac was on the show, and Isaac talked about, he was one of the Lidos. He was talking about that people are asking him the wrong questions, and he feels like sometimes they hold back on the questions that they're asking because why do you want to know that? He said he gets that a lot. Do you guys get that? Like, why are you asking so many questions? Or
I don't. I don't know. Do you?
Oh, I ask quite a few questions.
Well, yeah, but are people like, stop asking me all these questions?
No, I wouldn't say so. I would say largely with every company that we come across, my initial question is just what makes an ideal location for you? And so from there, you get a lot of different answers. You get everything from what's the infrastructure and the ecosystem and the steel manufacturing industry around where I would be located, and others is, do you guys have a beach there? Do you guys have this, that? My wife wants to live in Florida. I would say that the most common question that's asked to me, since I deal with a lot of foreign companies, would first off be, where is Northeast Indiana?
Yeah.
And then from there, that's really where you're able to bring in the idea that while a company may want to go locate in, say, Chicago and be in the city and be around commerce, what we offer is something on a grander scale with the 7 major metros that are within a 3-hour radius of us. And so from there, you're taking on not only the Fort Wayne market, but you're able to expand into the Cincinnati. You're able to hit the Chicago, the Detroit, even the Milwaukee at times. And so for us, I think that question in particular leads us into sort of the funnel of sales of success.
Yeah. And I think, everybody likes to feel like someone is interested in what they have to say. So I think probably...
I just naturally assume.
I know.
I just start talking. I'm like, you must be very interested in what I'm about to tell you. No.
But I think for me, these interactions, like if I'm at a trade show, asking somebody to tell me about what you do, tell me about your company, how are you growing? Where do you see yourself growing? What are the things you need to keep growing? And I feel like expressing that interest, that desire to learn about their needs and wants for their business, and then how we can have meaningful, thoughtful responses right back at the things they've stated to us to express we're paying attention, we're listening, we're crafting responses that fulfill those needs.
Well, okay, then what's the hardest part of the job?
Sending LinkedIn messages is the hardest part of the job.
I've heard you say that before. I believe you. You're getting leads. You're following up with people. You're trying to, like, if they don't, which, by the way, that's specifically why we recreated that logo with the arrow.
Oh, yeah.
That's where we are.
100%.
Because
Yeah.
the inspiration for that was, honestly, this is a little bit dated, but you know when you go into a mall and you are here, that thing, that's where that came from.
You only be able to use that reference for about 3 to 4 more years now.
Yeah, I think the clock's ticking on that one.
Yeah.
I just think the thing about it is that visual graphic identity of where we are and where we
Yeah.
fit in, the proximity to Chicago, the proximity to, to Detroit, even to some of these other places. I think that's probably important. I don't know what would be on, I guess you guys would know.
Just as a reference to our logo and the geographical location right there. I'd speak to our former Vice President, Brandon Knoll, who met Charles Barkley in the airport lobby one time. And, they had a short conversation. They shook hands. We named a project after him. And Charles Barkley pointed at his shirt and said, Indiana. And he said, but the corner of Indiana. And so I'd say the graphics certainly
You just
doing
stole
its
my
job.
marketing strategy.
So great job,
I'm-
Zach.
corner
I'm
of
thinking
Indiana.
in the corner of Indiana.
In the corner, upper right, if we could.
I think, like, going back to what's the hardest part of it for me, and I think this is the same with any sales, any business development, is there's a lot of things that are out of everyone's control that can make a thing happen or make a thing not happen. And it could be, a company that really wants to be here. They're really sold. They're really excited. Maybe they even found a site that they like. And we're all, yes, we want this to happen. And timing could be wrong, or the building
There
gets
could be a million
sold.
variables,
so
right?
many things can happen. And I think that's the hard thing is just, continuing to build these relationships. And there might be things that happen that are out of our control. And
Well, plus the conversion numbers. It's a tough sell because the sales cycle is how long?
Oh,
I mean, months, years.
Yep, easily months to a couple years.
Yeah.
It's an absolutely monumental decision for a business to be able to expand or relocate anywhere. The whole plot is it's like sending your kid off to college. You're like, how is he going to do out there? And so for us, I'd say we have a great chaperone system over here, provided by our investors and provided by good folks like Eileen and yourself and the marketing team at this firm. And I think that they'll do just fine.
First of all, it's probably no secret you are two of my favorite people here, and I'm not saying that because we're on camera. But I think the interesting thing to me is, like, for me, it was such a huge difference. I'm working on advertising campaigns for these Fortune 50 companies, but coming here and trying to understand vernacular, that was to me that was the toughest part. And I think IEDC. So you're constantly going. Let's see, I is Indiana economic, right? That's what you find yourself doing here. But I think it's what I always looked at it as is why we said. I've been here just under 2 years, I think, and it's we've set records both years, and that's not because of me. I think that's because our new business team has such passion around the region, and whether it's you guys or Brandon or whomever, I hear that coming through. No, I'm here to do good, and I want this to be a better place. And the real tip-off point to me was when the site selectors came through over the summer, and one guy said, I haven't been in Fort Wayne in 9 years, and I don't even recognize it.
yeah.
And that's, to me, that's a telltale sign that we're doing it right.
Yeah.
Because I can only, you can only market what you either understand or what is marketable. And that makes my job really easy.
Hi, everyone. We want to take a quick moment to shout out our podcast sponsors. Now, first, you might be wondering who I am, so let me introduce myself. I am Hannah Hannigan, and normally I'm behind the camera as the videographer, but today I wanted to be in front of the camera to shout out the people who made this podcast possible. Barrett McNagny and Sweetwater Sound are the two sponsors of our podcast, and they're both located in Northeast Indiana. If you don't already know who they are, let me introduce them to you. We're going to start with Barrett McNagny. As Fort Wayne has grown, the Barrett Law Firm has grown with it. Founded in 1876, Barrett McNagny is one of the oldest law partnerships in Indiana, and it's among one of the largest just in Northeast Indiana. They have the breadth of experience across a wide range of practice areas to provide you trusted legal counsel where and when you need it. And Sweetwater is actually the one we were able to purchase most of our audio and video gear from to make this podcast. So if you like how this podcast sounds or how it looks, be sure to check them out. Sweetwater, the nation's largest, and I would also add friendliest destination for music gear, is also your one-stop shop for all things podcasting. From audio interfaces, recording software, mixers, microphones, cameras, and lighting, Sweetwater has everything to get your podcast up and running. Enjoy personalized gear advice from their dedicated team of sales engineers, as well as free technical support to get your podcast connected and up and running. Really, what's not to love about that? So whether you already have a following or you're still chasing the next big thing, Sweetwater is going to be the ones to help you create a podcast that everyone will be talking about. So if you're interested in either of these companies, be sure to check out the links in our description. Now, let's get back to the podcast.
Let's talk a little bit about your favorite parts of the gig.
Well, as you probably could already tell from how I've answered basically every question, I mean, really, it's the people. I'm a people person, but...
Zoom in on that, please. Thank you.
But really, for me, that's what it is getting to know the people here in our region. And then every company that I come across, I love getting to learn about what they do, why they do it, how they started to do that. And that's the way I do it. That's not the way everybody would do it. But that, for me, I really, really love. And I love, like you mentioned that concierge approach. I love getting to be a helper. I love getting to make connections for these companies, especially smaller companies or startups. You know, every company could use help to know if our region is for them or not.
Of course.
But a small company with smaller resources, they really need that help. It's really valuable to them. And so that especially is meaningful to me.
Well, and that's the thing too, is we're not selling cars.
Right.
So, how do you prioritize that hierarchy of what you're selling? Because, you're basically trying to see around corners.
Yeah.
And that's not easy. I know, as we talk about what we've been through, the change that has gone through NEI over the past year has been extraordinary.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we just completely gutted ourselves and repositioned ourselves, and it seems to be working. I think it's taking root, the whole Pioneer platform and such. I'm curious with you guys, you come into a new vertical. You haven't done this before. You haven't had experience in it. You've both been in sales, and you just got your master's, I think, didn't you, Jackson?
Yes, sir.
I wanted to make sure I threw that in there, that he's also a smart guy.
Thanks for the plug, Sackett. I appreciate it.
He can kick people's butts on the football field and get a master's degree all in one. But that's my self-reflection. That's the way I looked at things. And because I had been flexing that muscle over and over and over with candy, gum, and insurance, that it made me have to reinvent myself a little bit. So would you guys mind talking about that a little bit? Because I'm sure, besides the learning curve, obviously you guys have had to change or look at yourself different or go, here's where I got to improve. That's what I had to do.
Yeah.
I would say that coming from the place where I come from, where my dad and my grandpa are both entrepreneurs, and I worked for them for a long time, selling hoses and whatnot to the steel mills. I became sort of like addicted to the sales process of it's just everyone wants to be the guy who says the right thing in the room, right? I'd say coming from my generation, if you take anyone who's getting a finance degree or getting a business degree, a lot of them it's because they've seen The Wolf of Wall Street and they all want to be Jordan Belfort. Everyone wants to be the guy who says the thing that changes the mind of everyone in the room. But what I've really come to find since coming here and being in more of a consultative position is that you're never going to say something that's going to change everyone's mind entirely. You're never going to take someone who isn't looking to expand, and I tell them that we have an excess of water, and engineering talent is 20% cheaper in Northeast Indiana than the national average. That's never going to spark them up and go, you know what? Yeah, we will pick up shop and add another location here. What you're looking for is someone who's already in the process and knows that they're seeking an expansion and making the argument to them as to why this is the place for them.
Okay, I love that. But then my question back to you then is, how much rejection do you get and how do you deal with that? Because you're talking about outreach in email campaigns, you're talking about outreach in phone calls, you're talking about outreach in LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, it's a game of numbers.
100%.
So I'm just like, I don't know if I could ask somebody out on that many times and get no. And
yeah, I would say so. Many of my internships that I've had before were just call center focused. You pick up, you dial, you talk to the same guy who told you to F off yesterday, and you try to come at it different. You try to bring up his kids.
Oh, that was you that called me?
Yep,
Well, sorry about that. I like you now.
Yeah, and maybe you don't lead with buy our IUL insurance piece this time. Maybe you lead with, I heard your son's birthday was on Wednesday. How was that? And you lead up and you lean into it. I think rejection, especially in the world of business, is just something that you get accustomed to. For me, it's the standard, and then anything above that is something that piques my interest, something that gets me going. And I think because of the amount of rejection that I take on a daily basis, and anyone in lead prospecting or lead generation takes on a daily basis, it's what makes those wins go so much smoother.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, you're awesome at, you are absolutely fearless. And then also you are always learning and changing how you approach things based on the lesson that just occurred, based on the no you just got. And I like getting, I sit 15 feet away from you or whatever, and to get to hear those conversations or hear you talk about them, it's neat.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just, and I'll run you through something, Sackett. This is a personal love of mine, Stoic Philosophy.
I feel like
Hang on, I have to cough. I'm sorry.
We're going to go right through this cough.
Keep recording. Yep. This is good stuff.
This is good stuff.
In Stoic Philosophy, Sackett, there's a metaphor about the archer. And the idea of the archer is that they can only control the arrow up to the point that they release it from the string. After that, it's at the mercy of the wind. It's at the mercy of the animal they're trying to shoot moving.
Variables, right?
You're right, of course. And so the idea is being that the archer doesn't focus on hitting the target. The archer focuses on releasing the string with the correct, proximity, or at the same time with the release of the fingers. And so for me, every day it's just thinking about how could I send a message that would pique someone's interest. And then once I have their interest, how am I going to lead in that sales call? How am I going to be able to introduce them to something that they haven't seen before and hopefully add value that hasn't been brought to the forefront?
You're so wise, Jackson.
Me?
Yes, you're wise beyond your years.
I watch a lot of YouTube videos.
There's a line from a famous song where he says, "So oftentimes it happens, we live our lives in chains and we never even know we had the key." And that's from the Eagles, if anybody knows the song.
There's another line from a poem that goes something like, I waited and waited only to find dismayed that any salary I would have asked of life would have gladly paid. Yeah.
This is the Stepford
idea.
Jackson today, I'm afraid.
I don't know
where
what's
this is coming
going
from.
on.
You waited and waited only to find dismayed that any price you would have asked of life would have paid. So at the end of the day, it's all about, like we spoke at Ace Pickleball, about thinking bigger and looking for something that's greater than maybe the idea that you currently have. And that comes from collaboration with other folks.
Dude.
What?
This is him, though, actually.
He's
a philosopher back there.
So, you know what? There's just a couple things. We're kind of winding down here. But Eileen, you have kind of a unique position here in that you're representing the hugely successful and expansive Electric Works.
Yes, yeah, it's So my focus is business attraction for office space here in the region, with Electric Works being the flagship office property in the region. So it has been really an exciting challenge since joining the team last spring, not only to learn about economic development in our region, but also to learn how to position the office space that we have here in the region, including Electric Works. How do you position that? How do you sell that? Who are you talking to out in the world that would be interested in office space? And those for me are great conversations because, of course, I get to talk about this amazingly beautiful redevelopment district that we have at Electric Works, but also get to talk about things that, an employer looking for office space is caring about things a little bit differently than like an industrial project might.
Yeah.
So I'm not having as many conversations about megawatts and water and wastewater and that kind of stuff, though I do with some of my clients. But we're talking a lot more about things that employees and people care about. So the amenities of the office space, which of course Electric Works has an incredible amount of amenities there for anybody that
mixed
works
use
there.
seems to be the platform nowadays.
Yeah.
And especially with the food court, and then they've got I was out at their farmers market as well,
right,
which I
yeah.
thought was pretty cool too.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because I've got friends that work there, and now they're looking to build housing.
Yes.
Right outside of it too, which I think is pretty cool. But they're they're at the end of phase 1 right now, is my understanding, right?
Yeah, I think the housing and an early childhood education center and a fitness center will kind of close out phase 1. So it's exciting to be part of that project right now when we're at the very beginning of it. As exciting and beautiful and lively as it is right now, knowing that this is a project that's going to take years. And so imagining a decade from now, all that's going to be there, people living there in the housing, children going to the early childhood education center, you'll go and work out at the fitness center. And it's just going to continue to grow as a place. But
it's a mini city within the city,
right?
And I would also argue that I think that between the baseball stadium, Parkview Field, between Parkview and Electric Works, those were the two biggest initiatives that I think this city has ever seen.
And it was neat. Last fall, we hosted a familiarization tour in northern Indiana for site consultants, and concluded the tour in Fort Wayne with time in the batting cages at Parkview Field. They had brunch and a tour at Electric Works. And it's really cool to have people that aren't from around here. And, these site consultants see locations all over the world for their clients. They're in major metros all the time. And to see a look of absolute surprise and delight and just like amazement at all the development that's gone on here.
Yeah.
How amazing it is. How
There's
lively
2 cranes
it
right
is.
outside the window right now. Yep.
And it's really neat because I think, we live here, we see all this every day. We know that it's exciting, but when you see it every day, you can get it doesn't, it's not as everyday thrilling.
Yeah.
But to get to see it through the eyes of visitors to our towns and our region it's really cool.
And during that site consultant tour, while Eileen's giving the tour herself, I'm lucky enough to hang towards the back with the consultants and pick up on some of the compliments that they give us. And what I heard from at least 2 separate consultants at the time is that they never thought they would find a site like that in the state of Indiana.
Really?
I was told that, this could maybe be something that we could expect from a San Francisco, Silicon Valley sort of space. But I think it really, part of what Electric Works encapsulates is the idea of how much gold we feel like we're sitting on at this firm. And when we have these outside forces come in and they're able to witness it for themselves, it really changes the way that they view the state of Indiana and, of course, Northeast Indiana in particular.
And obviously it's not just about Electric Works. There's so many stories like Electric Works throughout our region that are, buildings and sites and locations that have been long neglected that, a person or a group or organizations came in. The state's investing tons of money in redevelopment projects that are meant to continue improving the high quality of life that we have here so we can keep attracting new citizens, keep retaining talent that's already here. And it really is, it's exciting.
Well, you know, if somebody, and then we're gonna have to wrap it up, guys. But I'll tell you, today we had a meeting, Jackson and I did, and it was so interesting when he said for the first time, you know, a few years back, he heard his son and his son's friends talking about growing up and staying here.
Wow.
And I think that was his pivotal point to, okay, and this guy's a serial entrepreneur, obviously a smart guy, wealthy guy, and that's why he put his money in this pickleball thing. And now it's working, and he's getting better workers, better quality of people. He's getting more people joining it and such. So I just think, I feel the wind is in our sails a little bit more, just over the past couple years in particular. You know, what NEI is doing is working, I guess is what I'm saying. But I think that I always say you have to have purpose in what you do. But I think the one thing that really stood out to me is the pride. There's a lot of pride in this town now. And I didn't always feel that when I was first reading about it before I moved here.
I was promised rapid fire questions.
Yeah, that's where we're at now.
Oh,
So,
good. Okay.
okay.
I'm ready.
So
Do we win, though? Are there like points?
No,
and a
you get
winner?
nothing. I'll buy you a soda.
You get to answer rapid fire
You
questions.
get to answer
That's a
rapid fire.
treat
That's
in
your
itself.
reward. So this is something that we do at the end of each show. And you guys feel free to just yell out your answer at the same time. No
Okay.
waiting.
Perfect.
I'm just curious to see if you guys align on any of these.
If you fire from the hip, it's impossible for things to blow up in your face.
Wow.
Like, what does it even mean?
This guy, I
Let's
think he
roll
just, to be honest with you, I think Jackson just wants to host the show, which is fine with me. Okay, so rapid fire questions. And the first one, comets or tin caps?
10
Comets.
caps.
Really? Okay. All right. That was so
No.
No, because you guys both did. I
Really?
thought I was wrong on the bet on that one. DeBrand chocolates or Coney Island hot dogs?
DeBrand.
DeBrand. Okay, it's okay. We represent them, so it's fine.
Of
with me.
course. They do a great
chocolates.
job with our
I love
business
DeBrand
cards.
chocolates.
Okay, so Three Rivers Festival or Johnny Appleseed Festival?
Three Rivers.
Johnny Appleseed. Gotta be.
Really?
Yeah, of course. Who doesn't love the biggest
Jackson
myth
is,
in town?
is yin to my yang back there. We're
Yeah, you two. See, this is why I didn't sit between you two. By the way.
wait. Will you need to ask us? Wait, Pitbull or
Oh. What's the best Pitbull song would be the question.
oh yeah, like motel hotel.
Motel room service is
Or-
100%.
I mean, I have to say Fireball.
Fireball is also a good one.
Forever.
That one gets the people going.
I can't help but feel I've lost control of the show again.
Sorry,
Come
Sam.
back to me.
Come back to our area
Okay.
on a Friday, and it's
At noon.
It's Pitbull.
Okay, if someone is visiting or new to the county, where would you take them to eat?
oh my gosh, this is an unfair question.
I actually have the perfect place in mind. They may not do so much on the food side. Folks in Northeast Indiana, there's an absolute gem up in LaGrange County called Das Coffee House, owned by the Amish. Everything they make is locally sourced from farmers around them.
Yes. Yep.
And
Yeah.
they will serve you a caramel coffee shake with 30 grams of protein in it.
Yeah, this is an unfair question because honestly, we really are blessed with an abundance of amazing restaurants. So
Well, even at the landing,
Yeah.
which I live by, I was very pleasantly surprised at
Yeah.
all the restaurants there. But the last question, if you had to make a Northeast Indiana essentials list or a bucket list of the best experiences in the region, what would you add to that list?
lakes, the lake life for sure.
Lake life have to be a Fort Wayne Comets game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A 10
good-
caps game.
Of course, a Tin Caps game in the summer, especially on a Thursday. If you walk
Yeah.
out there and you're a young man, it probably feels like playing for the Yankees.
Yeah.
I mean, you should go to Coney Island. I think it's sort of a.
It's
thing
kind
to
of a
do.
staple. I mean, I
Yeah.
know Chad introduced me to it when I first
Yeah.
got here.
We've got a ton of great places to hike, a lot of nature preserves, a lot of awesome land trusts to explore if you like to hike or camp or just enjoy the outdoors.
Absolutely. I think I'm going to have to double down here and go with the lake life, especially in the counties up north. We have over 200 lakes here. And the infrastructure around all of them is built out to be like holiday vacation world with the ice cream shops and the bars and the restaurants and the little knick-knack shops. So you go up there and it's like a little slice of heaven. You really escape.
Yeah, and you know what? The good thing too about getting there is there's not a lot of traffic to get there.
Yeah.
No.
You know, I'm coming out of Chicago where just to go across town is an hour.
Yeah.
You know, that's just the nature of the
beast.
beast.
You could leave work at 3 on a Friday, and before dinner time, you're at your cottage, ready to spend the weekend.
Absolutely. And to get out of Fort Wayne and go anywhere is a straight shot down a highway.
Yeah.
Whether we're going to Chicago, down south, Detroit, out east.
Definitely one thing I truly appreciate, and especially because I got my car here now, so I'm even happier. Well, Jackson and Eileen, you guys know I love you guys. You're doing 2 record-setting years in a row. Congratulations on all the success, and I am so happy to help promote you guys because I love you guys, and I think you're just great people.
Love you too, Sackett. Thank you so much.
And thank you for joining us on the show. Another episode of NEI Pioneer Podcast. Make sure you share the show, like, subscribe, do all that stuff, and we'll see you soon.